That Rick or Pastor Renee, who selected that song for today's service, remember that that was my favorite. And I always get weepy. So as kind of a, right before my sermon, which is a little stressful, I'm up here weeping, singing this song, thinking, here I am, Lord. Will you join me in prayer? Lord, please bless these words and these thoughts, that they would be pleasant in your eyes and in your purpose. I pray these things in your Son's name. Amen. So this is quiz number 3. Let's see, I get to do the slides now. Are you ready to play? The game is called What Is This? Or Where Is This? And we do also have a Who Is This in here. So number 1, where is this? Do you recognize this place? If you do, just call it out. I'll tell you, yeah, that's close, or no, that's not. Washington State, that's close. It does look, Oregon State, it is on the coast. Here's another picture of it. Does that give you a better clue? Columbia, close. But it is another clue on the East Coast, not the Northwest. What's that? Acadia, yes! Acadia National Park. Yay. Okay, number 2. Here's one. Where is this? Grand Tetons. Someone knows this right off the bat. Here's another picture of it. Beautiful young mountains. Yes, Grand Teton National Park. Very good, Rudy. Number 3. Where is this? What is this? What did I hear? Williamsburg, yes. This is Colonial Williamsburg in Virginia. Now the question is, who is this? Who? Oh, looks like a president. Was not a president. He was related to a vice president, though. This is John D. Rockefeller Jr. Jr. was the son of John D. Rockefeller Sr., who was the founder of Standard Oil, who was the richest man in the world. As a percentage of the United States wealth, he owned by far the largest share of U.S. wealth of any single person before or after or since. Think about that. He owned so much money as a percentage of the whole U.S. economy that he was the richest person in the world, and he was the person that gave the land for Acadia, for Grand Teton National Park, and that bought the land and restored Colonial Williamsburg. John Jr. did, his son, okay? So round 2, what is this? An old picture. Yes, it is an old picture. The Sacramento Library, amazing. Exactly right. The Central Library, here's a more recent picture. Look at those windows, the round windows in front. The round windows from the inside. And now here's after the restoration and the addition of the new part of the library. You can see on the left the old part, and still the round windows shrouded a little by the trees. And yes, the Central Library, Sacramento Public Library. Who is this? Carnegie. You're exactly right. And what is his significance to the Sacramento Library? He gave the money exactly to build a library. He gave $100,000 in a grant to the Sacramento Library to build that building. He was a Scottish-American industrialist who led the American steel industry in the late 19th century. And in his lifetime, he gave away over $350 million, or about 90% of his wealth. Among his projects was his driving interest for libraries. Andrew Carnegie. So now here's a real trivia question. Everyone, what is this? Where is this? Here's a more recent picture. Can you read that? Suva City Carnegie Library. Here's the old picture. If you're up close, you can actually see Carnegie Library above the pillars. And this says Suva City Carnegie Library. Suva City is in Fiji. Has anyone been to the Suva City Carnegie Library? Virasila has been to the Suva City Carnegie Library. So Andrew Carnegie funded 3,000 libraries in 47 states and in Canada, Britain, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, the West Indies, and one in Suva City, Fiji. Sacramento is linked to Suva City via these libraries. So what is the point? That you have to be rich to make a difference in the lives of people in the future? Absolutely not. You don't have to be Bill and Melinda Gates and set up $1 billion foundation. You don't have to be Warren Buffett and be the richest person in the world and give away your wealth in your lifetime and make the news for that. In fact, it is the opposite. A little light here, but this says, Luke 21:4, for they all, out of their surplus, put into the offering, but she, out of her poverty, put in all that she had to live on. Bill Gates, Melinda Gates, Carnegie, Rockefeller put in out of their surplus. But Jesus here is referring to a poor woman who's putting in out of all that she owns. The Christian view is that this is sacrificial giving. Our Christian view is, in fact, that we are not owners of our wealth. The capitalist view and our culture's view is that we are owners of our wealth. Have you ever done a net worth statement? You know, tallied up how much you own, your assets, your bank accounts, maybe even your property, how much you owe, your debts, your mortgage, and then subtract how much you owe from how much you own to come up with your net worth. It's an interesting exercise, and it helps you in your financial management. I think, though, it gives us a distorted perspective. A distorted perspective about our relationship to our stuff. We are stewards. We are not owners. For every good and perfect gift comes not from us, but comes from above. James 1:17. Today we're talking about legacy giving. Legacy giving is a little different from the giving that we typically do, our tithes and our offerings. We give to support Centennial's mission or a church's mission from our income, from our paycheck, from our weekly earnings. What I'm talking about here is legacy giving and leaving a legacy in our wills and estates and our trusts. And some very fortunate people are able to do this while they're still alive and give from their estate before their death. Most of us, though, at the time of our death, if we so desire, can put it into our wills and estates and leave a legacy gift at the time of our death. The point is, it is simple to do. It is Christian to do. And it is investing in the future. Now, these are, for our denomination, for our church, a little uncertain times. And when we say investing in the future, we ask the question, well, what is the future? Pastor Renee has talked about, and I know many of you know, about the Commission on a Way Forward. This is the United Methodist denomination process for wrestling with the issue of whether to stay together or split apart over the issue of LGBTQ inclusion. So you start to think, how can I invest in an uncertain future? My view is the buildings, this building, this beautiful sanctuary, could be gone in the future. It could burn down. My view is even Centennial, as a faith community, could be gone in the future. When we invest in the future, we are not investing in buildings or even in a specific Centennial congregation. We are investing in the mission of this church. Because the things that we give to the future can go on beyond the building, beyond the individual congregation, and will go on beyond the building, beyond the individual congregation. We're investing in the mission to make disciples of Christ tomorrow. Not the ones that are here today or in 5 years, but maybe it's in 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years. I have seen this personally as churches have closed and have turned over their assets to start up new churches. That is investing in the future. That happens, that is good. That is what revitalizes us and reaches new people, sometimes younger people, different people in the future than the ones that are currently coming into the sanctuary today. So when we say that it's an uncertain future, yes, about this specific congregation of Centennial, possibly about this building, although it looks pretty sturdy, but things do change, and yes, a fire could happen. But with respect to the mission, no, it's not an uncertain future, it's a certain future. The mission will go on in a different form, and investing in the mission is what we need to keep our eyes on. I wanted to tell you about the preparations that Centennial is making to handle the legacy gifts. In 2006, the church conference established a permanent endowment fund committee. That was a good thing. They are forward thinking. In 2012, the church council passed an endowment policy that guides the endowment committee. And in this year, 2018, the endowment committee will be trained and will be up and operating. The nominations committee will be working on filling out the 7 spots on that endowment committee. It seems like it's about every 6 years, 2006, 2012, and now 2018, that we have a spurt of activity in this area. I am confident that in 2018 we'll take that step and get over that hump and have a functioning endowment committee. In fact, we have already arranged for Susan Peters from the conference to do training for us of the endowment committee in the fall, so that we understand the processes and tasks of an endowment committee. It has taken us a while, 2006, 2012, now 2018, but we're going to get there. You may have noticed in your newsletter articles that there's been some endowment-related newsletter articles. July's article was entitled, "Is God in Your Will?" These articles, and you'll continue to see them, are in preparation for the endowment committee coming online in the fall. One of the things that the endowment committee will decide is whether or not to set up something called a John Wesley Society. John Wesley Society is a recognition of those who have identified and included Centennial in their gifts, wills, in their estate plans or trusts. I think that will happen. We'll see. But I wanted here today to recognize some of those. This is not complete. Frankly, we don't have a complete list. We will work on that. Of those who have, in the past, made legacy gifts to Centennial. In 1980, Ruth Gagnon left her home to Centennial. In 2005, Judy Dallow's will left a gift of $250,000 to Centennial. The Armstrongs estate gave a gift of Quaker Oat stock worth about $100,000. Last month, Pastor Renee talked about Sue Wilcox, whose will left $31,000 to Centennial. And while some, which is understandable, may wish to keep their gift to Centennial in their will private, which is perfectly understandable, I think that it is beneficial to publicly acknowledge it and publicly be publicly identified as having changed and included Centennial in someone's will and estate. I think that it encourages others. So I'm grateful for Fran Eldridge, who's our finance chair, who agreed to let me tell you that she has included in her trust documents Centennial in her trust. Last week I was on a very nice family vacation with Leslie and our 3 sons up in an Idaho dude ranch. You should have seen me on a horse. I got home safely, although at some points Leslie said it looked like you were falling asleep. And I thought, well, you can't fall off a horse falling asleep. And I was trying to relax on the way down the hill, but it was difficult. Someone told me I'm becoming like my mother, who had the ability to fall asleep anywhere. So I don't know that I could have fallen asleep on my horse, but maybe my mom could have. We had a great time. We were doing hiking and fishing and playing cards. And I was thinking about my legacy. I remember my dad encouraging me to lead a balanced life that included a spiritual life. And I was thinking, how well have I done in encouraging my sons to do the same? Not as good as my dad. And I was thinking that not just myself, but I think our church has not done as good a job as it could to reach younger people in their 20s and finding a church and creating a church for them. So we're talking about how do we reach them. I'm not sure if it's going to be me or us that does this, but I think that we need to invest in that Otherwise, we won't have young people that lead a balanced life that includes a spiritual life. Last month, Pastor Renee's sermon, she talked about a proverb, this proverb that says, "Old men who plant trees under whose shade they will never rest and whose fruit they will never taste." Old men who plant trees under whose shade they will never rest and whose fruit they will never taste. They're planting it for the future. So I was thinking, who am I planting a tree for? Is it for my sons? Is it for my future grandchildren? I think the answer is yes, and. Yes, and that is too small. We're planting trees not for those that we know, it's for those that we don't know. Those that we don't know that are hurting in the future that need a place. That need a place, a community that you get today as a community here at Centennial, that pray for you, that meet your spiritual needs, that meet your community needs. The things that you get out of Centennial today, we need to create places for those people in the future, those people that we don't know. It's not just our kids, it's for the people that we don't know. Mother Teresa's favorite passage in the Bible is this: "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." It's not for the people that we know, just them. It's for those that we don't know. It's for the least of these in the future that we do this. I think about sitting under my metaphorical tree, the one that Judy Dallow, Ruth Gagnon, the Armstrongs, Sue Wilcox, they planted a while ago for me. I think about sitting in this sanctuary, and they kind of planted and invested in the future for me. And now I'm under my metaphorical tree here, and I'm looking off in the distance and thinking, there's not a tree over there. Where are those future people, the least of these, going to sit? I think we need to plant a tree for them. We all are that metaphorical old man. We're in the nice air-conditioned building here under our tree. I have asked Leslie and I have asked our attorney to add to our will and estate plan the provision to include Centennial in our plan. So we are going to plant a tree for others, for the least of these. And I ask you to consider and join us in leaving a legacy. Yes, think about your children and your grandchildren, but think about the least of these. When we do it for the least of these, Jesus says we do it for him. Thank you.